G'day and welcome to Critical AFL on YouTube for another one of my late night reviews. This isn't coffee, by the way, it's a late night concoction. It's supposed to not keep you up at night, chocolate flavoured. We'll be covering the narrow and highly frustrating loss to Richmond at the MCG today, where a lot of things went well and a lot of moments that didn't cost us dearly. In this review, I'll be covering a couple of rare but important opening statements on the loss that I feel I need to make. Then, as always, who our best performers were, who put in a promising display, and what to expect moving forwards from our big improvements. And then finally, my key takeaways for the match. But before we get into the program, I'd like to make my regular, humble request to anybody following the channel who's not already a subscriber to please consider hitting that subscribe button and making sure you never miss one of my weekly reviews, both from our waffle fixture as well as these AFL videos. Right now, we're currently closing in on the channel's goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers. And as I always mention during this request, YouTube doesn't allow any future content to become monetized until after reaching that number. So it does mean that every new subscriber, as well as all the existing subscribers to the channel, are incredibly important to me and to the time that I am squeezing into my schedule to make these videos. Anyway, now that we've covered that, I'd like to make a couple of opening statements regarding the loss to Richmond, which is not a regular feature in my reviews, but I do think is necessary after today's game. Firstly, I'd like to point out that Tom Gross is not to blame for that painful missed opportunity in the dying moments of today's game. As frustrating as it was to see after a dozen missed opportunities throughout the match, Gross received the ball flat-footed before he could turn and go, and there wasn't a single player running past for that faster overlap handball that you really need in those moments. Every teammate around him was pointing or yelling for him to go, so he had to go, and it didn't work out. I know it sucks. Richmond sucks. The umpire sucks. Tom Lynch sucks. Kane Corn sucks. And that list goes on, but Tom Gross isn't on it. Tom Gross is on my Christmas list of players we need to offer a contract extension to. For my second opening statement, those of you who watched my waffle review video yesterday may remember that I mentioned Clay Hall has needed a spot in the AFL side for a few weeks now. And I said that if we lost to Richmond yesterday, I'd be blaming Andrew McWalter for leaving him out of the side this weekend. So given that we lost by 2 points, I'm going to have to double down on that statement and blame everything on Clay Hall being left out of the side again, aside from maybe a little bit of blame to Kane Corns as well, just because he gives it out. But those were my two rants that had to be said, disguised as my opening statements, to be honest. So let's get to who our best players were from the match. At the top of the list today was Jamie Cripps for me. In the first quarter in particular, it was Jamie Cripps, I thought, who kept us in the game while Richmond controlled a lot of the play, and other forwards also missed their opportunities while he wasn't. So it made a big difference. He kicked one during that period and set up the other goal, which I think Jaden Hunt kicked. And he kicked another pretty early in the second quarter. So he had a really big hand in holding the margin at bay when Richmond were the dominant side for a period. He also did a ton of hard work deep in defence late in the match as well. I'm not sure if everyone noticed. And he laid some really crucial tackles when we needed them too. So definitely at the top of my list. And also it's nice to put Cripps there because I probably underestimate him sometimes, especially since he's really towards the twilight of his career. And I usually put a lot of my focus into the younger guys. My next best was Liam Baker. Baker has been really competitive for us all year, and you could really see that he was playing with another gear on top of that against his old side today. From the look of it, I think a lot of his old teammates were hoping to get one over him individually, physically, not just the win. And he somehow managed to stay a step ahead of them almost all day, even in the middle of packs. Baker ended the match with 22 disposals and looked like he was running out of steam just towards the end, but he was a really big playmaker for us and he never took a backward step the entire match. Tyler Brockman and Liam Ryan both, I thought, had a lot of really impressive possessions through the middle and a total of 9 clearances between them. I think 5 to Brockman and 4 to Ryan. I hope it's not the other way around. I don't think it is. But seeing both of those really high-intensity small forwards do what they did at centre bounce was actually a massive relief because it's probably the first time since Elliot Yeo's injury was announced that I feel like West Coast has a combination of midfielders that are actually able to compete in the centre of the ground just against all the elite midfields the competition has at the moment. I think we are in desperate need of a couple of genuine accumulators still, just midfielders who you can rely on to get close to 30 disposals a game. And I do think that it's guys like Tom Gross and Clay Hall who could end up being those players for us, probably Elijah Hewitt too. But I'll cover that in my key takeaways. And for now, just say that both Ryan and Brockman in the middle might save West Coast from a lot more suffering throughout the rest of this year now that we've discovered their ability. I also had Jack Graham in the best for today for us. Graham regularly gets a spot in my best players list and regularly gets my known quantity spiel for basically being a reliable senior midfielder that we know he is and delivering for West Coast week in, week out. This week was no different. I'm not sure if I'd place this performance above any of his others, but definitely not below either. He's just a very steady, reliable midfielder that we really depend on a lot already. Which takes me to a few notable mentions now for exciting, promising performances today. The first of these, I'm really happy to say, is Harry Edwards. I've got to be honest, I was really optimistic with Edwards during the pre-season, and then once the season got underway, I was a bit worried that he might not have a very high ceiling as a key defender, just after all this time waiting behind Tom Barrass and Jeremy McGovern, and a lot of the time that he's been out with injury. I don't think I considered that he might not actually be a real genuine gun key defender. But today I thought was his best game in the AFL to date in his career. I personally think he won the matchup with Tom Lynch individually, who did kick 2 goals as a result of beating, not so much, as a result of beating Edwards, but more just from being on the field in the forward line. Just kind of though someone was going to kick goals at the right time. Edwards took some really strong intercept marks, had some massive spoils, and a couple of ground ball possessions that really took the game by the horns when he needed to. And he also booted at about over 60, I don't want to say 65, but over 60 metres coming off half back at one point. I think it was in the first half, which wasn't something I thought he was capable of. So hopefully that's a sign of where his baseline is going to be long-term, not his kicking, but his overall game. And a bit of a silver lining to losing Jeremy McGovern for the match was Edwards getting that opportunity where I'm not sure he was going to. Actually, it was Oscar Allen out late that got him in the side. So there's a silver lining to those outs. I thought Bailey Williams' performance was also really promising. And that's referring to him as a key forward. I don't want to get into it too much here because it's also one of my key takeaways. But I think with all our weaknesses in the ruck department, it was really important for him to demonstrate that he can hurt teams as a key forward, which he did today. And I'll go more into that in my key takeaways. But I mentioned last week in my waffle review that Bailey Williams was really impressive as a forward rather than just as a ruck, as against South Fremantle. And it looks like he's managed to carry that through to the AFL level. He kicked 2 goals from just really classic key forward craft, strong in the lead, good contested marking, and then having that impact on the scoreboard to finish. And the final exciting performance for me was Matt Owies. I know he's copped a lot of criticism for his spot in the side throughout this year. And through all of that, I'm pretty sure I heard the stat, it was just the AFL that mentioned it, that he's was holding the record for most pressure acts in the competition as of, I think, a week or 2 ago. But today against Richmond, he also had his best game since coming to West Coast without needing to include all of those 1%ers that I know the coaches notice more than the fans do. Always kicked 2 goals and 2 behind, so he did leave a little bit out there. But he also had 6 score involvements in total, which is a really important role. So again, like Edwards, I really hope that his performance today can soon become his baseline now that he's had a bit of time to settle into the forward line at West Coast. Anyway, that brings me to my key takeaways from today's game, which I've been really looking forward to discussing. My first key takeaway was that our ruck combo of Matt Flynn and Bailey Williams is a working formula. A lot of sides, and I've mentioned this a few times in past videos, have dabbled with the 2 ruck setup and failed. But we're really fortunate with Bailey Williams proving himself as a key forward, which he actually was listed as when he was drafted to West Coast a few years ago. And the important part of this, though, is that we've been really deficient in the ruck all year. So neither Flynn nor Williams have been able to get the better of the star rucks of the competition on their own. But together, I think we have the ability to just wear opposition rucks down or even just swap out the primary ruck, that primary tack work if something's seriously not working for one of them or the other. So yeah, big win seeing that work today. And even though it's a shame to see, quality forward like Jack Williams out of the side. He played really well in the waffle yesterday. I mentioned that in my waffle review. It really looks like it is for the greater good, and Jack Williams can still probably compete with Archer Reid for that third key forward role if the combo does keep working, which I'm hoping it does. My other key takeaway is that we need to start genuinely playing our youth. I've already defended Tom Gross for Richmond's now iconic moment in the final minute of the game, but moving on from that or putting that aside, he actually came on after the start of the fourth quarter, and he ended up having a really impressive impact in the middle of the ground. He ended up with just 6 disposals, but over that time, that's reasonable. But some of them were absolute class, and I just can't help but think West Coast should be giving Gross 4 quarters every week and then just sit back and watch that pay itself off. His return on investment has been almost immediate since his debut, and the same goes for Clay Hall. Again, he's dominated the waffle in every match he's played there this year. He's done everything right at AFL level 2 when he's played also. And like Ross, I just think he needs to consistently be given 4 quarters every single week in the middle for an extended period, or until he does something that deserves being dropped, because right now there's senior players who are doing less to hold their spot and keeping their spots. And it's reaching a point where it is costing us games like today's, I think. I just think the younger guys, they're hungrier for the ball, for lack of better technical input on that one. Anyway, that's about all from me after today's loss. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope that any mothers watching this video had a wonderful Mother's Day. As always, I hope I'll see you all again next weekend for the next review. And until then, hot chocolate time.